All right, everyone, welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks and Game Time. It's Brian Hines back as always with Alex Barth, fresh off day one of the Senior Bowl. We'll be talking winners and losers, who stood out for that, but we did have some small interesting Patriots news, noteworthy Patriots news come out during the Senior Bowl and just 10 minutes ago that we'll touch on first. And that is on the coaching staff, Brian Belichick, safeties coach, and cornerbacks coach Mike Pellegrino will not be returning to the team next year. I think those were really the two guys from the staff last year that I think most people wanted to see back, and it made a lot of sense to bring them back with the play of that secondary the last 2 years. And again, something we've talked about a lot, Terrell Williams, new defensive coordinator, his focus is on the defensive line, right? So if you can keep some continuity in that secondary, especially a guy like Mike Pellegrino, who's done really great work with, young players who are undrafted or picked later, all the way to like the Stephon Gilmores and Christian Gonzalez's of the world. So Brian Belichick and Mike Pellegrino will not be returning. Full turnover, defensive and offensive coaching staff for Mike Vrabel as those two guys are out the door.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what this is. I think sometimes when you're looking to reset, right, there's a new head coach, it's a full reset, and there's no, this guy, and that guy, and sometimes you just have to fully hit the reset button, and that means, flushing the good out with the bad and just completely starting over. So I still think, both of them, Brian Belichick, Mike Pellegrino, are great coaches. I think we all probably have an idea where Brian might end up. Mike Pellegrino, we'll see. I have no doubt wherever he ends up, he'll be successful. I don't think this is a decision you make lightly, but I think sometimes, especially if, as I think it was Doug Kyed reported today, right, that the Patriots are going to change up their defensive philosophies a little bit with Mike Vrabel and Terrell Williams, especially if you're doing something like that. I think this is just a matter of, we want to start fresh, and by start fresh, they mean start fresh. This is kind of what people got on the team last year for. Well, if you're moving on from Belichick and starting over, why are you keeping all these holdovers? I think this is, just fully starting over. Why this didn't carry over to the front office, I don't know, because it seems like a really committed effort to fully start over, but I don't think it really mattered. I don't think this is about Mike Pellegrino. I don't think this is them not believing in him. I think this is just Mike Vrabel wanting a fully clean slate with his coaching staff.
Yeah, because the one coach who stayed in Jeremy Springer has a connection to a former Mike Vrabel coach in Tom Quinn, right? His assistant who's also on staff. So that's why he probably...
I doubt Springer and Quinn are still here if Quinn didn't work with Vrabel in Tennessee.
Yeah, makes sense. So I hope, you said change maybe some of that defensive philosophy. I hope they don't change too much from the secondary and they still play like a lot of man, just because you have Christian Gonzalez, right? We talked offensive coordinator, you want to maximize Drake Maye. Like on the defensive side of the ball, you want to play through Christian Gonzalez and maximize him. He's your best player. So play a lot of man coverage. So I hope they still want to do that, but we'll see who Mike Vrabel brings in here. We did, I think last week, the report was Kevin Richardson, who was Illinois assistant defensive back, will be joining the staff in some role. We'll see what exact title he gets. And then you imagine someone else will come in here, corners, safeties, however they want to divvy that up. I don't know. You don't have off the top of your mind who did it with Vrabel in Tennessee, did you? I'd have to Google it.
Not off the top of my head.
We were all hoping that it would just be Belichick and Pellegrino. That we didn't really.
They did. Who was the defensive backs coach they hired from Illinois?
Kevin Richardson.
So maybe it's him, although maybe he's the safeties coach. Yeah.
Let me see. Pulling up the Tennessee Titans old coaching staff here. Defensive secondary was Kerry Combs. And then, so they only had, in 2019, they just had a secondary coach. They didn't have safeties, corners. They just had a secondary coach.
I could see them maybe doing secondaries coach, assistant secondaries coach, if that's how Vrabel wants to do it.
Well, Kerry Combs, who did it 2018 and 2019 under Vrabel, and then he went to be the Ohio State defensive coordinator, has spent the last 3 years at the University of Cincinnati coaching corners. So maybe he wants to come back into the league. He's an experienced coach, but we'll see what Vrabel has in store there.
The guy I went right to is Al Harris, but he already got hired, unfortunately.
We did.
I have a connection to Vrabel. I just think he's a hell of a coach.
Jim Leonard's returning to Denver, right? That was the report a few weeks ago. I don't know if he even has a connection to Vrabel, but I'm a big Jim Leonard guy. I think
a lot of because he went to Wisconsin, right? I think a lot of these guys that are former players have connections with one another. He is back in Denver, like he was hired as the defensive backs coach and pass game coordinator last year. So he's been in that role already for a year.
Okay. So you can't shake him free. So, all right, we'll see what happens there. But Mike Pellegrino, Brian Belichick.
How about is Steve Gregory coaching now if we're going to go down that road?
That would be interesting.
Steve Gregory is coaching now.
Is he really? That makes sense.
He coached in the NFL for a little bit. He was the safeties coach for the Dolphins in 2022. He didn't work in 23. In 2024, last year, as a senior consultant and associate defensive coordinator for Vanderbilt, who had a pretty impressive season. Yeah, call Steve Gregory. Have him coach safeties.
There we go. Why not? But safeties coach, it's been a good pipeline for the Patriots. I saw Oliver Thomas posted it. It was Matt
Flores
Patricia,
was safeties coach, right?
Matt Patricia, then Flores, then Steve Belichick, then Brian Belichick. So good pipeline for those Patriots safety coaches the last few years. So.
James Sanders coaching? James Sanders is not coaching.
Tell you what he's doing. Maybe he wants to. Maybe
you got any other former Patriot safeties? Gerard Cherry?
I mean, has Devin McCourty turned it down?
I mean, that's you call him right away. Gerard Cherry not coaching.
Logan Ryan, that's the guy who played Vrabel and Patriots.
Gerard Cherry's actually doing broadcast stuff for the Browns. Logan Ryan, I think, is coaching, right? Isn't he? No, I don't know why I thought that.
He just retired, right? I think last year was
2023.
His first year.
Yeah.
So maybe he wants to get into coaching, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. So secondary coaches.
Patrick Chung's too busy overhauling the Red Wing. Shout out to him for doing that, by the
way. Those are important. Those are more important anyway. So secondary coaches, in addition to Kevin Richardson, we'll see what happens. And then wide receiver coach is still the big kind of domino we're waiting to see fall right here. So we'll update any coaching staff updates that come in as we go on. But let's get to the good stuff. Let's get to the Senior Bowl first day of practices down in Mobile today. American and national team going at it. A lot of good stuff in the trenches, I would say. And that's probably where we can start with some of those offensive tackles and defensive linemen. So Josh Connerly, Ariante Ursary were the big tackles that we kind of headline going into the week. So what'd you see from those guys, or who else kind of stood out to you on the offensive line from day one here?
So I think both those guys were as advertised. We talked about it yesterday. They're both good. They just win differently. Ursary's more overpowering. Connerly's a little more technically savvy. I think Ursary probably had the better day of the two. Connerly did get beat once or twice, but overall I thought, they both had the performance that you're kind of expecting from a player who's a fringe first round pick, and they looked like that. I don't believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, I don't believe we saw Belton at right tackle. We did see him at guard.
Yep.
Anthony Belton from NC State, but he was really good. There was that one where Ezraku tried to spin move on him, and he just straight up caught him. I think you tweeted that one out, right?
Yep. Unless I missed him during team drills, his 3 1-on-1s, they were 2 at left tackle and 1 at left guard. So,
but you know what? He still looks like I still think there's a chance that he could maybe be a swing tackle. And at that size, that would be a really useful chess piece. I thought he was impressive. And obviously Gray Zabel was really good. He's not a tackle. He's going to be a guard or a center like we talked about, but he's going to be a hell of a guard or a hell of a center.
Yeah. Yeah. He was probably the best lineman there. He's an interior guy, and there's a lot of guards on the Patriots' current roster right now, so you're probably not in position to draft Gray Zabel, unfortunately. But he was awesome today. He was probably the best lineman. You said Ursary, Connerly, kind of as advertised. Ursary, just a massive human being. He did lose. I think his main loss was inside. Someone got into his chest, which is kind of one of his problems. And then, Connerly, he lost inside. His one-on-one loss Josiah Stewart, who we talked about yesterday,
Yeah.
who I might have lied yesterday. He might shoot up draft boards now because he looked really good there if we want to get an edge rushers at some point. But Josiah
Yeah.
Stewart from Michigan was really good. But yeah, I thought those tackles kind of looked as advertised. And not many, all the offensive line play was pretty much in the national team early on. The American team was kind of on the weaker side afterwards.
But didn't we know that? Remember, we like went through the rosters yesterday and realized how lopsided it was.
Yeah, that's why I just brought it up again because I was like, yeah, I was going through and like clipping it. And I'm like, the second team, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Like, no one really stood out that much, and the names weren't as big. So, but yeah, those two guys, Ursery and Connerly, will continue to see how they go throughout the week. We can talk about those pass rushers they went up against.
I'll say one more guy. Sorry, from the offensive line. Is it Carson Vinson, the kid from one guy on the American team, the kid from Alabama A&M, the guard? He had that win at the very end.
Oh, the one-on-one win?
Yeah. I think it was against Deion Walker, who we'll get to.
Carson Vinson.
Yeah, Vinson. He didn't have any like overwhelming wins, but at an event like this, especially for a small school guy, just show up and hold your own, and that can go a long way. And I thought he was one of those guys that, I don't. People outside of that last one, I don't know that people are going to like clip high. Oh no, but Walker beat the kid from Jacksonville State, not Vincent. But Vincent was in there. Vincent was in there at the end against somebody.
It was Shamar Stewart, who's like,
that's right.
Projected first round pick. So for that guy to get in there and hold his own against a projected first round pick.
And then besides that, I thought, he did what he needed to do. So day 3 guard is a conversation. Day 3 guard is as much as I've downplayed it kind of earlier, those more depth guys. Vincent could be a little bigger to be a Patriots guard, but a guy that I'll be watching a little bit closer tomorrow.
Yep. All right. They went against a really good group of defensive linemen. Now, the American team, that's where the talent is on the defensive line. Before we get too much into that one, though, I want to quickly tell you guys about our friends over at Prize Picks, where you just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. And it is playoff time. The big game is coming in, so it's now or never. Don't miss out on the last football action of the season with Prize Picks, and they have a big game free pick, a Patrick Mahomes projection discount. His passing yard total was 250.5. It is down to a half, so he just has to throw 1 passing yard. I think Patrick Mahomes can figure that one out in big game, and you compare that with something like Saquon Barkley, more than 112.5 rush yards. Maybe Mahomes is throwing to Travis Kelce, 62.5 receiving yards. Xavier Worthy has another good game, 56.5 receiving yards. And you just pick your lineup for a shot to win, again, up to 1,000 times your cash. And Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes, and Prize Picks now offers MasterCard for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup on Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, that defensive line, again, a lot of good names on the American side. We'll definitely talk about Deion Walker, but who were your kind of ups and winners from that group today on both sides?
Well, remember I talked about, all right, so Deion Walker's like the day 2 Mason Graham, the day 3 guys, Cam Jackson. I thought Cam Jackson had a very good day. He was very disruptive. Stock up on him. I really enjoyed watching him. I thought the South Carolina guys were as advertised. Kyle Kennard was pretty good. Trying to remember who else I had in there. Y.A. Black.
I had Walker Nolan, Ole Miss.
Walker Nolan was really good.
Him yesterday, but you just saw the explosiveness and then the power, especially in one-on-ones. He was a little quieter in team drills, but you saw the pass rushing ability from Walker Nolan in those one-on-ones there and that with that American team.
Yeah.
And then Omar, Norman Lott, who I also talked about a little bit yesterday, Tennessee, like in the backfield. You saw the burst off the ball a few times in team drills, especially. So he was a rotational guy again at Tennessee, but maybe he can carve out a larger role with a good week and continue to build on that. But Deion Walker was the main show everyone was looking for in that defensive line room. Kind of an up and down day. He had the play where he's walking back the center, basically taking the handoff with Jalen Milroe there. But, there were some inconsistencies, especially one-on-one as a pass rusher. He's 6'7", so he can get up and lose some of his power. But you did see those kind of inconsistencies show up that worry you when you do watch him, at Kentucky the last season.
Yeah, this is why he's not a projected first-round pick anymore. He's a project. He's a tremendous project, but there's just still so much technically that needs to be done with his game. That's why I like him for the Patriots, because there is a history, there is a track record there of with Mike Vrabel, with Terrell Williams, is developing defensive linemen, especially these kind of super toolsy athletic defensive linemen. People will point and say, well, it's actually they've had more success with undersized guys. Do they like the undersized guys, or do they just like the guys that are a little bit quicker and a little more shifty? Because Walker plays like somebody who's significantly smaller. He doesn't play to his size, and that's both good and bad. There's elements where that's great, and there's elements that he needs to work on. So I wouldn't say dominated today overall. Up and down's the best way to put it. I think you got, for people who were unfamiliar with Deion Walker, I think you more or less got the full picture today of who he is as a prospect.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Anyone else on the interior or, extended to edge? We talked a little bit about Josiah Stewart from Michigan. He is just a ball of energy out there, just so much athleticism, and he can surprise. I know he's a little undersized, but he can surprise people with power. I like him a lot, but anyone else from that edge group to extend that defensive line?
Ezeraku was another one that I thought was up and down, had his moments, but maybe not as complete of a day as you might be looking for from a guy like that. I think that was pretty much
Stewart,
it.
we mentioned.
Yeah, we talked about Shamar Stewart. We talked about some of these guys that had a good day, and we talked about the offensive line. So,
yeah, I think those were the two main guys for me: Shamar Stewart, Ezeraku. Princely, he didn't do much, so we didn't get to hear how they say his last name from Ole Miss.
And I was trying to pay attention. They said it differently a couple times. That didn't really help.
Did they? So we'll have to keep watching him. But Kyle Kennard had a few plays, especially in team drills. South Carolina, he's a guy who could be in the mix for that second pick there for the Patriots if they don't go edge early on with like an Abdul Carter. So Kyle Kennard, South Carolina, was another name to watch there. But let's just wrap up defense while we're here. Any secondary players or second level players that caught your eye today out there?
Yeah. So I talked about some of the top guys were good. I'll save AZ Thomas for you and some of those guys. But I talked yesterday about Bilal Cohn from Western Michigan, MAC player, projected day 3 pick that has a lot of the tools you look for. It's just a matter of what can he do against higher level competition. And he was really good today. He was constantly with receivers. They used him in a lot of different roles. We got to see him against different types of receivers, bigger outside guys, slot guys. And he was right there more often than not. I would say that heavy majority of the time. I know he did allow one catch. It was to one of the Iowa State receivers. I don't remember which one, honestly, off the top of my head. I think it was, it's Noel's the bigger one, right? I keep getting them mixed up.
Noel's the slot. Higgins is the bigger one.
Then it was Higgins. But I thought he was really good, and we'll see what kind of momentum he can build this week, because that's a guy that I think, for his skill set, for where he's projected to go, makes a ton of sense for the Patriots.
Yep. You mentioned AZ Thomas. When he didn't have to get matched up against Tez Johnson in one-on-ones, which is like impossible in those scenarios, he looked really good, really sticky in man coverage, which is what you expect from him, corner out of Florida State. Maxwell Hairston, Kentucky defensive back.
He was good.
I thought I had a few good reps. I had Bilal Cohn there, who you just mentioned as well, and Trey Amos from Ole Miss. He can really move. He can move fast and recover. He's probably, I don't know if that would be too early. I think he's
projected top 50.
Yeah,
I don't know about first round. I mean, maybe just because there's not a ton of corners, especially if Siobhan Revel doesn't pass his medicals, that kind of opens up another door. But yeah, he's probably a little too high for the Patriots.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just a good player to know.
Good name, good day for some of those DBs though. Kind of
Yeah.
wasn't expecting that completely, and they had some good performances.
I'd extend that into the secondary too. I thought Billy Bowman had a good day, made a couple of plays, showed some good recovery ability. He's another guy that makes sense for the Patriots. Slot corner / deep safety. They need depth in both spots.
Who was the I was trying to find his name, the Maryland safety who ended the day with the 1-on-1?
Oh, the lacrosse player.
Yeah. Trader.
Yeah, it's something Trader. Yeah, that was a good rep.
He had a few good reps, I thought, in coverage today, and he ended it. It was against Jason Taylor's son, who was on the broadcast today. So Dante Trader, Maryland safety. You what?
We're old.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on the defense side of the ball, or we can swap back over to the offense and talk some of those skill players?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the defense.
All right. But before we do that, let me squeeze in one more quick word from our friends over at Game Time, the best place to get tickets for any sporting event you want to go to. I know we have one more football game left, but basketball, hockey season are in full force. Pitchers and catchers probably report soon for baseball. And Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier, because they filter out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. The Celtics are back home at the TD Garden tomorrow against the Chicago Bulls. Probably another random bench player is going to drop 30 points on their head. But if you want to go to the game, you guys can use Game Time. $50 is the cheapest get in right now, or you can move behind the Celtics bench 3 rows up with a Game Time Pick super deal, $203. Great deal, great seats, great view. So make sure you head to Game Time for their lowest price guaranteed and other in-app features such as seat views, all in pricing, and again, Game Time Picks, which makes it even easier to save on any tickets you're looking for, even beyond sports, concerts, comedy, theater, anything at all. Make sure you use Game Time and take the guesswork out of buying those tickets. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. All right, back to offense. Anything on your Canadian quarterback or Dylan Gabriel throwing a ball 75 miles an hour before we get to the wide receivers?
All right. On the Canadian guy first, I thought he was fine. He missed a couple throws, but I thought he held his own, which is kind of all you're looking for him to do in this event. Second of all, on the Dylan Gabriel thing, Dove needs to relax and learn some ball, okay? Because he tweeted out that, and that's where he tweeted out that this is, he threw a ball. Dylan Gabriel threw a ball 74.9 miles an hour at the Senior Bowl. The NFL Combine record is 62 miles an hour by Josh Allen and Joe Milton. I fell for this last year, but unlike some, I did my research. The Combine and the Senior Bowl measure differently. I don't know exactly what the difference is, but the Senior Bowl either measures from a different point or uses a different gun or something. So again, the number he gave for Dylan Gabriel, 74 miles an hour, and then gave the Combine record at 62. So you're talking about 12-mile-an-hour difference,
which is absurd.
So 74.9 is the number for Gabriel. Joe Milton's number at the Senior Bowl last year, because let's compare apples to apples, because that seems like a more accurate way to do this. Joe Milton's number at the Senior Bowl last year was 76.4. So, a mile and a half more doesn't sound like a lot. It's a lot. I don't have Josh Allen's number. I couldn't find it, but I'm going to guess it was better than 74.9. I had shot in the dark, knowing how that guy throws the ball. When I'm willing to give Josh Allen credit, I'm serious. All right. So let's do like 2 seconds of research and let's use a little bit of common sense.
That's not as fun when we can aggregate false information for clicks and Elon will pay us.
If a 5'10" guy had the torque to throw the ball 12 miles an hour faster than Joe Milton did, his arm would no longer be attached to his body. And then, we might have heard of it. I think we might have heard about it beyond him. So let's just use like half a second of common sense.
He also would have spent
I don't know why that pissed me off so much, but it did.
Because they were trashing on Joe Milton.
But it also makes Josh Allen look bad, so that nets out.
True.
It's not that.
If Dylan Gabriel was throwing the ball 75 miles an hour, he would have been like in Tennessee last year, not Oregon or
he would be in a hospital. His shoulder would be dislocated.
Yeah. And he would also be maybe a draftable quarterback like on day 2 or something. But all right, fun stuff. Wide receivers. Not last year's wide receiver class, I would say, with the Lad McConkeys and Ricky Pearsall's, Leggett was there, but still a good class. Xavier Restrepo was one we really highlighted going into this. Perfect, like fits a mold of a Josh McDaniels slot receiver. You saw that today in one-on-ones. His chain moving ability, his route running ability really stood out. So any thoughts on Restrepo or extend it to the rest of that wide receiver group here?
I thought Restrepo was another guy. I hate to keep using this phrase, but as advertised, he's impossible to cover one-on-one. It reminds me, he wins differently, but it's the same thing with like Pop Douglas in training camp. Every year we get to one-on-ones and you're shocked if he loses because that's just how his skill set's tailored. Now, that's not to say like there's other questions about his game that don't really get exposed in one-on-one. So we'll get to those once we get in a team and you got to look at the film and things like that. But he looks like a Patriots slot receiver, and you see the build, like he's thicker and more built to take on contact. I thought he was good. I thought Royals was good. My guy Kyle Williams should have had a deep ball. Dylan Gabriel, of course, overthrew him.
He threw it too hard.
That must have been the 75-mile-an-hour one. I don't know. But I thought he looked good. I'm not buying Tez Johnson. I know he had a great day. Yeah. This is where, so again, he was dominant in one-on-ones as well. But you have to look at how that's going to translate when it's not one-on-one, when it's 11-on-11. And I just don't know that Tez Johnson, a lot of those routes are in breaking. They're playing him to cut to the middle because in a game, that guy's 160 pounds. You're going to let him go to the middle and his head taken off, right? Like you're going to let him go to the middle and let the linebackers deal with him. And that's just not sustainable. Whereas Restrepo has more tools in his bag physically and in terms of his skill set to deal with that. So I'm not buying in on Tez Johnson, certainly not in any high regard. If he's around like later on day 3, fine. Because he does have, I think, rare speed. But you know who I'm going to compare him to? He's not as tall, but I don't know. You're great, Brian. You're grinning. Is it because I'm right or because you think I'm being an idiot?
Is it short Tyquan Thornton?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he measured in at what, 156 pounds? Like,
was it that low?
I think it was.
I thought it was 160 something. It was low.
Oh, it was smaller than I.
I was thinking 165. Maybe it's 156, and I have it backwards.
Here we go. Now we have to find it, and
now we have to go
in the.
Now we have to go look. Oh, and they don't have colleges either. That makes it Tez Johnson 5'9", 156. Good call.
There we go. That's small. That's small.
That's...
His one-on-ones today gave me serious like Patriots training camp vibes. Remember, like Javon Baker kept winning one-on-ones, but he was just running in breaking routes away from everyone, and like that's what it kind of looked like today from Tez Johnson. So
you want a real comp? You want a real comp for Tez Johnson?
I'll
give you the actual comp. And I mean this, I don't mean this complimentary, or I don't mean it to smear him. I just think this is who he is. Do you remember Devin Tompkins from Utah State?
Yeah.
Like big play hitter. I think he averaged something like 23 yards per catch his senior in college or something. It was insane. He was a deep threat. But he was, I'm looking at 5'6", 167 is what he weighed in as. So a little bit taller, a little bit shorter, a little bit heavier. And it was like, he's got great speed. He's got great agility, but he just doesn't have the frame to hold up in the NFL. So the Bucs drafted him. He's now on the Panthers, and they use him like rarely as a gadget player, and they use him to return kicks. And that's not, look, there's a role for that guy in the NFL. Absolutely. But I think I just said the Bucs drafted him. They signed him as a UDFA, I should say. They signed him as a UDFA, and he's kind of been a gadget guy for the last 3 years. And he's good at what he does, but it's a pretty limited role. And I think Tez Johnson right now is projected I think he's projected as a top 100 pick. I wouldn't go that high on him.
I think he is too, which I'm not going to touch him that high. But yeah, you mentioned Restrepo, obviously Jalen Royals. He's got he's awesome at the line of scrimmage, getting away from press. You saw that a few times today. I'll add in Jalen Noel, Iowa State. That's like maybe if you want your early day 3 Xavier Restrepo, like good slot, good quick quickness, route runner. Like you could absolutely see a role for him there. And then his teammate Jaden Higgins, bigger, 6'3", 6'4", but he's pretty fluid for that size, and he had a good few routes and plays today. So some good stuff from that receiver room. But we'll wrap up running backs, tight ends. Anything from those guys? Elijah Arroyo from Miami kind of stole the show with a few of his routes. Good mover at the tight end position, but anything from the last two skill positions there that you saw?
It's so hard to focus in on any one of these running backs because there's so many good running backs there. But I'll say this, just seeing Ollie Gordon not at Oklahoma State was refreshing. And I'm not an anti-Oklahoma State guy. They're one of the teams I like it when they're good, but that was a bad situation for him this year. It just wasn't working. You could tell it was weighing on him by the end of the year. It was non-contact practice. So this doesn't hold a ton of weight, but running with a spring in his step. He also, seeing him on the field with some of these guys, like you get an idea of how big he is as a running back. And usually you don't want tall running backs because you want guys that can get low and get leverage. But Derrick Henry's the apex of this. I'm not saying he's Derrick Henry, but when you're that big, when you hit a certain height, now you become like overpowering and it becomes tough to tackle you. So I thought that he looked good. I thought he looked refreshed, and it's the kid, Yarns, right? Is it Marcus Yarns from Delaware? He made a couple nice plays.
I don't know if it's Marcus. It's definitely Yarns, though.
Some with an M.
Marcus Yarns, yeah, Delaware.
Yeah, Marcus Yarns from Delaware.
Yeah.
He made a couple nice plays.
Ollie Gordon, you mentioned his size. Like, his body proportions just look like Derrick Henry in the backfield. Now he's like 15, 20 pounds lighter.
Right, he doesn't have the muscle, but
because like Derrick Henry's a freak, but the proportions.
Yeah, he's
really
got the long legs. He's a long strider. He's got long arms. The stiff arm's incredibly effective. I mean, with it being Vrabel, and we'll see with Josh McDaniels how much that translates, but like, it wasn't just Derrick Henry. They brought in some other bigger running backs too that weren't on that level, but it was one of the types they have. I'm not going to say it was the only type they had because they also had some smaller, shiftier backs. Look, they signed Dion Lewis, right? So they kind of did that same thing that the Patriots did, where your early down backs and you had they didn't really use them as passing down, but like they had basically power backs and shiftier backs. If that's still going to be a dynamic, I like Ollie Gordon. I do like Ollie Gordon for him, and I still think he's a top 50 talent. I think this year really hurt his draft stock, but I don't think there's a ton of. Go back and watch Oklahoma State. Like, they were never going to do anything but run the ball. Alan Bowman, like 3 weeks into the season, just not that he had that much to begin with, but completely lost it. Like, had no touch, no feel for the game whatsoever. It was like the Mac Jones Patriots. Like, we're going to put 9 guys in the box. Good luck. Go ahead, throw it. And they couldn't do it. And people will say, well, that worked with Ashton Jeanty. They did that against Ashton Jeanty, and he still tore it up. I think Genty's probably a better back than Ollie Gordon, but I don't think Ollie Gordon shouldn't face those kind of defense in the NFL. Certainly not with Drake May.
Yeah. Yeah. I still think running back could be like
with a hopefully eventually a better line too.
Yeah, definitely.
Didn't see too many Oklahoma State linemen there today.
Running back could probably be an early day 3 need for this team, especially with Josh McDaniels back. So if you're talking Ollie Gordon, 4th, 5th round.
Like top of the 4th, early 4th, maybe their first pick of day 3. That's where they took Ramondre.
Yeah. So I think that could be a good spot for him. And if you're looking for maybe those quicker backs, Devin Neal, Kansas, RJ Harvey had the one-on-one to end his practice, had a nice route there. They're both on the, shorter, quicker side. So maybe if they're looking for their next pass catching back, one of those two guys. Donovan Edwards had a nice rep too in one of those situations to end the day. So
are you sure it wasn't Yarns? Because the broadcast kept getting those two very confused.
Maybe it was. I thought it was Donovan Edwards, but maybe it was Yarns. I'll have to go back and watch. But
I know they were getting guys wrong all day. Not that I've been great with names today, but
you could tell it was day one.
Yeah,
you could tell it was day one.
I'll say he didn't do a ton today, but I'm still high on LaQuint Allen if they want that pass catching back.
Yep.
Be looking for him to do a little more tomorrow.
All right. So anyone else? Any last thoughts, notes, on anyone?
Let me check I think we covered pretty much everybody. Yeah, I think we got to everybody.
All right.
I guess, is there anybody you're looking for to do a little more tomorrow?
I don't know. I mean, we said like a lot of those guys were as advertised, right? So
Yeah.
can one of those guys just like elevate a little bit? Like, can an Ariante Ursary clean up, some of those issues? Like, he plays a little high at times. Like, can he have a day where everything like clicks and you can just elevate yourself a little bit? So that's where I'm probably at. Because again, a lot of these guys, you saw what you expected. Like Deion Walker, can he have a more productive, full, complete performance? I'm guessing they'll be in full pads tomorrow.
That's what they said on the broadcast.
Some of those, okay, there you go. So, especially in those trenches, can some of those guys just, have a really complete performance and really put it all together there?
Yeah, I'm with you. Walker's definitely obviously one I'm going to be looking for, and a guy I'm going to be looking at a little more. And then I think some of those smaller receivers, Royals, Williams, Restrepo, Higgins, like in full pads tomorrow. You figure they're going to go a little more press coverage, things like that. How do they handle physicality?
Yep. So full contingent of Patriots down there: Mike Vrabel, Elliott Wolf, Ryan Cowden, Matt Groh from the boots on the ground. Evan and Taylor were eyeing those guys out. So full Patriots contingent down there to check those guys out. Day 2 tomorrow. We'll try to be back. We're not 100% sure, so we'll let you guys know. Patriots CLNS on Twitter, Patriots Press Pass. Turn on your notifications, subscribe there, wherever else you get your podcast, and we'll let you know. Last thing I mentioned, I realized I forgot to mention this. Opening it with some Patriots news: Drake Maye elected to the Pro Bowl as an alternate as
that
well.
That shows you how much the Pro Bowl is worth at this point. I mean, props to Drake, but
I tweeted it out. I've always said rookie quarterbacks who earn Pro Bowl recognitions as an alternate is very meaningful, very important. It's deserving. We should tip our cap to Drake Maye, but what was he, like the 6th, 7th alternate down the line?
Well, look, before you poo-poo this too much, and like, yeah, the whole alternate thing, it gets disgusting at a point. But Shamar Chase, Jerry Jeudy, Nico Collins, Zay Flowers, Brian Thomas, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Terry McLaurin, Malik Neighbors, Mike Evans, JSN. I guess I didn't include the guys that opted out, but like, there's going to be some good receivers there. Go network, Drake. Yeah. Go sell yourself. Go sell the franchise. Like, if he goes down there and convinces one of these receivers, Terry McLaurin's a free agent. If he goes down there and sells one of these receivers on the program, I don't think Terry McLaurin's going to be there. Yeah, he's not.
Any offensive lineman going to be there?
Ronnie Stanley. Ronnie Stanley's going to be there. So you sell maybe Ronnie Stanley on it. Who else do we got for tackles? I don't know how much time he's going to spend with the NFC. AFC, there really aren't any guys. Tristan Wirf's got a new contract. I don't think Taylor Decker's a free agent, but go sell your. Maybe it's not this year. Maybe it's next year. Go sell yourself, Drake. Go network.
Yeah.
You convince a Pro Bowler to come here, and it right then. Well, it's going to be worth it for him either way. But then it's like, okay, that's how you make this matter. I don't care that you're going to play in a stupid flag football game or the dodgeball game, whatever it is. Now they've ruined this event tremendously. Not that there was much there that was great to begin with, but they've ruined it. But if you can go down there, like in the NBA, right? Kevin Durant recruited Kyrie, almost ruined the Celtics. Go ruin a franchise, Drake. Go get somebody to come into New England.
There we go. So Drake Maye, Pro Bowl. I think that's this weekend.
Yes.
I believe. So
it's Drake Thursday and Sunday, or Friday and Sunday or something.
It's a weird combination.
Thursday and Sunday, yeah. It's the whole thing's just a mess.
All right, he'll be there. He was at indoor golf last night, so he's making his rounds. He's having a good offseason so far. So Drake Maye will be at the Pro Bowl. But
I'll give you one who. Oh no, he won't be there. They made the Super Bowl. Trey Smith.
Oh yeah,
it would have been a good guy to recruit.
Too bad. All right, we will wrap it up there. Senior Bowl. I almost said Super Bowl. Senior Bowl, day 1 in the rearview mirror. Day 2 and day 3 tomorrow. Again, we'll be back at some point to break those down, but make sure you stay locked on to Patriots Press Pass for that. You can also follow Alex on Twitter at RealAlexBarth. Head over to 985thesportshub.com to read his Senior Bowl and Patriots coverage there. And you can follow me on Twitter at I am Brian Hines, and head over to patspulpit.com for our Patriots and Senior Bowl coverage there as well. Thanks for everyone for jumping on with us tonight, and we will see you guys sometime soon.